This is what the inside of my brain looks like. Hello, welcome. I'm having a great day. It's finally not super hot and I get to wear a little sweatshirt. And also, I got my Devinah order in. If you haven't been keeping up, Devinah released their Mystic Cove collection and their Sea of Shadows collection back in, I think, April? I have a video I'll link down below where I swatched all of those shadows. They were kindly gifted to me, which was really cool. And just recently, they announced an expansion to both of the collections. So both collections had really beautiful artwork. And instead of just being like a concept and on their Instagram and their website and stuff, they actually made little palettes with the artwork on it. So there was 2 additional shades released in the Sea of Shadows collection to bring it up to 9. I decided to not pick up those 2 additional shadows just because they didn't look like the type of shadows I would get a lot of use out of, and I've been trying to be more discerning about what I bring into my collection. But the Mystic Cove expansion shadows looked so up my alley, and I was so excited to get them, and I think of the 2 artworks, it's my favorite. So I'm happy this is the one that I ended up with, and it got to me super quick. So as I said, I have been gifted shadows by Devinah in the past, but these today were purchased by me. So the 3 new shadows are these here. I probably could have put this in an order that makes more sense, but I just threw them in the palette with the other shadows that I decided to purchase at this time. And those 3 new shadows I'm going to eye swatch for you today. I'll also do swatches of the other shadows I decided to purchase, just because that's fun to do and I haven't touched any of them yet. And also I will include clips from my previous video of the other Mystic Cove shadows so we can have all of the Mystic Cove in one place. So we're going to be doing a couple different things here today, but I'm mostly excited to eye swatch these, dig into it, see what we're working with. I can't tell you how nice it is to only have 3 shadows to eye swatch. I feel like I've had so many videos where I've eye swatched like, usually it's at least like 7 or something. So 3, I'm like, piece of cake. Piece of cake. So the palette has these little like divots where you can put the pans in. I do like how it looks. I find sometimes when palettes have the little like divots, it can look kind of like messy, but I feel like the divots are exactly the right size that like you can still get the shadow out, but they're not too like visually clunky. So I'm into that. So you can take the shadows out with like just like a tool. For instance, I have this depotting tool that I used to use for that sort of thing, but now I have a little magnet tool. So even easier, I can just like to get them out. Ooh, and that looks nice to hold up. This is Nerites. This looks so pretty. I'm very curious about this one because in the live video where Deandra swatched them all, I thought this one looked like a little bit less textured than the other ones, but she went live on Instagram last night as I'm filming this. In her swatch in that live, this looked like so deliciously amazing and impactful, and I'm really curious to see how it goes. I also am a fan of the Mystic Cove formula because I do feel like they have that impact, that texture, that like pick up on your finger that I like. So I did buy these expecting to enjoy them. So let's see. I'm so excited. I haven't bought any eyeshadows in so long. Yeah, this feels just like the other Mystic Cove shadows. It's like soft, but it has like a thickness. You feel it picking up. It doesn't feel like rubbing a wet rock. And that color looks gorgeous. That's actually really close to my nails. And my nail color is like my favorite color ever. So that's cool. It's like a touch more pink, but it looks less corally than I thought it might from the pan. I don't have any primer on my eyes. Just going right in. And that is really pretty. Cool. Yeah, it's also looking a little bit more neutral, like what I consider neutral. I think pinks are kind of neutrals. It looks more neutral than I thought it might, but that really increases like the wearability for me. If something has like a really deep base, I'm much less likely to like grab for it on a daily basis. But I think this is like such a pretty mix. So I will look at this in the other light too. The other light is where the shifts tend to reveal themselves a little bit more, but I can clearly see a deeper pink, a lighter pink, like a greenish yellow in there. Gorgeous. And I do know from seeing Deandra swatch it in the video that it has an intense green. I feel like that's going to be what we see in the other light. Ooh, I'm really excited. This looks like candy. It's like a really pretty candy color, and I feel like I'm going to wear this a lot. I think the next shade that I'm gonna eye swatch is the one that I'm most excited about. It's this one, Echidna. This one looks a lot more green. This one looks like it has a green base, but the sparkles in it shift like an icy pink, and the shift looked very intense in Deandra's videos. I'm so excited for this. This looks like nothing else I have in my collection. It looks so beautiful. This feels exactly like the last one did. Ooh. Oh, wow. Oh yeah, this one you can instantly see the multi-chrome. That's so interesting. Yeah, this one to me just like reads pink. Like we'll see the full story when we see it out of the light, but I think this one looks like, what is that shadow? What is that color right off the bat? And I love that in a shadow. I love a shadow that's like light enough that it feels wearable to me, but shifty enough that like if you look at it, there's no mistaking that it's a cool, interesting shadow. And that looks so pretty. It looks so green and so pink at the same time. Wow. It also feels a little bit more sheer. I don't know if that's just because the colors in it are closer to my skin tone or what, but I'm happy about that because I was nervous that the sparkles were going to be so light that it was going to read as very frosty on my eye. And I find sometimes with really frosty shadows, I don't like how they look on the outer part of my eye. And usually how I do my shadows is like put one all over my eye. So that was a concern with this. But I'm not concerned anymore because I feel like it melds with my skin enough that it doesn't have that like intense frostiness. I hope you know what I mean. Ooh, it's so pretty. I really like both of these. So in Nerites, I'm definitely seeing that gold, and I'm also seeing a little bit of blue to purple, which I was not expecting at all. And Echidna is just like killing it in every angle. Okay, so I was excited to eye swatch those two together just because they both looked so pink in my initial impression. So the third one is kind of like the wild card here. This one is Thetis. This one looks like purple to yellow to green. I'm wondering if this is going to be in like the Give Me Glow Xenon family, which is a shade that I really love. And my biggest struggle with it is the fact that it's in a large pan and I never reach for my large pan. So if this is like my answer to that, I'm down for it. I don't know if it will be, but it looks pretty. I'm excited to see. I do have eye primer on now just because I plan to leave this look on. Feels exactly the same. Soft and textured. Ooh, that looks so pretty. Oh wow, yeah, this is reminding me of Xenon off the bat. And I love that. Wow. Oh, wow. I feel like this is the most impactful of the three. And this is another one that's like so undeniably multichromatic. Wow. I don't even know what else there is to say about it. This is so pretty. I feel like these expansion shadows were made for me because these are so in my wheelhouse. I'm so excited to have this in Devinah's formula in a 26mm pan. I love the purple base. It's a bright color without being too dark. And also the shimmer on top of it like really brightens it up. But also I feel like the shimmer is not too colorful. Like it still feels like it's towing the neutral line in my wide definition of neutral. Okay, so I'm going to make a look around this and then we'll come back for comparisons, the other swatches, everything else. So I'll be right back. And here is the finished look. How beautiful is this shadow? I'm gonna have to show you the other angle too because I'm seeing so much more in the other angle. But even like this, even in the light, it's so pretty. But like when you can see the green, then the inner corner makes sense. And it's just that much more dimensional. So for my lower lash line, I used a matte purple from Menagerie. For my inner corner, I did Fairy Fire, but I kind of wish in hindsight that I did like a purple inner corner But hey, Deandra, if you're listening, in the spirit of expanding collections, let's see more Phantom Orbs. A lavender velvet inner corner. That's what I'm missing. And I just did a light transition in my crease. I believe it was Sweetheart from Luxie. And this was such like a pretty, easy, colorful look. And I'm so excited about this shadow. I was just looking at this in other lights and I'm definitely seeing way more blue to it than I was expecting as well. We're on day 2 because I wasn't able to keep filming yesterday, but that means that we get another look. So let me show you this look, even though I just showed you my last look. I put Nerites all over my lid and I love it. I think it looks better in person than it does in camera. It looks beautiful in camera, but like as I was applying it, I'm like, this is going to be my new like hyperfixation shadow. It reminds me a lot of Nocturne Ash, but it's more pink and it has a little bit more texture to it than Nocturne Ash does. But if you remember from last year, I love Nocturne Ash, and this has like a very similar depth and a very similar flip to it. The flip doesn't translate as well in these direct lights, but as I was putting it on, I was able to see that like purple blueness to it that Nocturne Ash has. And if you have that one, you might know what I'm talking about. And it looked so pretty. I love it. I love how pink it is, but it still doesn't feel like too colorful. I really like it. And I don't have an inner corner on. Okay, Devinah Laze is in my inner corner, my favorite inner corner shade of life, and if a shadow goes with Laze, I like the shadow. We have a couple things to take care of. I did put all of my Mystic Cove shadows into my little Mystic Cove palette, and it is so satisfying to see this like full shimmer, beautiful, multi-chrome dream. I tried to set it up so when I swatch them, they'll go in some kind of order that makes sense. Put the pinks together in case you're curious about how the new one, Nerites, I feel like I'm saying that different every time, how that compares to Elektra. We'll see that. We'll see Thetis against Galene, and I'm gonna hate myself in editing for saying this, but I'll put in clips of me trying these out from my original video as I'm talking about them, so then this can be kind of like a little resource for the Mystic Cove experience. You dirty little... So, let's start with that. First shade is Thoosa. Beautiful, mid-toned pink with a teal flip. Next is Echidna, one of the newer shades. Gorgeous and shifty and so sparkly. The next one is Scylla. It's like a yellow-orange, but here it looks very red. It also has an intense green to it, and I feel like this one looks a little bit different on everyone, which I love in a shadow. Next is the next new one. This is Thetis. Mid to deep toned purple base with a beautiful green, blue, and yellow flip to it. The next one is Galene. It's a beautiful purple to blue, and there's some pink in there also. The next one's Paleamon. This is another one that I feel like looks a little bit different on everybody. On me, it has a very intense blue base, and it has that red to orange to green shift in it. The next one is Amphitrite. Me with my brain telling me that pinks are neutrals, I always think of this as like the neutral one of the bunch. This one's a beautiful orchidy pink with a yellow to green flip to it. Next is the final new one. This is Nerites, the one that I have all over my eyes at the moment. This one's a mid-toned warm pink with pink, yellow, orange, and blue shifts. And finally, just as I'm running out of arm room, we have Elektra. This one in the pan looks like a very similar color to Nerites, but swatched out, the base looks almost gray, and it has a lot of pink, yellow, copper sparkles to it. Friends, the entire Mystic Cove collection. This is what the inside of my brain looks like. Okay, let's move on to some comparisons, and I'm really excited about this. mostly because of Thetis, and I want to see how it compares to Xenon. So here is our swatch of Thetis. So pretty. Okay, so here is Give Me Glow Xenon. I think you can see in the pans, they do look very similar, but I also think Xenon's looking a little bit more blue. I'm really curious how they're going to swatch next to each other, because I feel like on the eyes, this looks to me like how I think Xenon looks. Yeah, I'd say the base of Xenon feels a little bit more sheer and a little bit more blue. I think the greeniness to it is a little bit more apparent than it is for Thetis. I think Thetis shifts a little bit more of like a green-blue, and when you look at it head on, it has more of like a cornflower yellow sparkle to it. But I do think these fall under the category of like having a similar enough effect that if you don't want to purchase from Give Me Glow, if you don't want the larger pan, I think Thetis is like a functional dupe, I'd call it. I also have Mirage from Elektra. I spoke in a recent video about decluttering this, but I haven't moved it out of my collection yet, so I figured I would compare it here too. This one's very similar to Xenon, but it has a much more intense base, which is the reason I wanted to declutter it. Yeah, I do think Mirage and Xenon are closer to each other than Xenon is to Thetis, but I think you can see what I mean by the base. That Xenon looks like the most sheer base, Mirage looks like the deepest, bluest base, and Thetis is a little bit warmer and more mid-toned, which is perfect for me. They're all cousins. Okay, next I want to talk about the unique gorgeousness that is Echidna. And I did comb through my collection, but I don't have anything that seems similar, and I think these comparisons will only kind of serve as a record of how different this is. So I was concerned about the frostiness because in the pan, right there in the center, I think it does have a bit of a resemblance to Orion from Devinah. It's like a similar green tone in it. And I find with Orion, it does come up in like BYOPs a lot, and I've used it a bunch of times, but I find it to be a bit too frosty to wear all over my lid. This is kind of what I was thinking about when I was saying that before. On my outer corner, it just looks a little odd to me out there. So I could tell that I'm not going to have the same issue with Echidna, but they are a similar green tone, but like obviously Echidna is so much more. And Orion is very pretty, but it's just kind of like a straightforward light lime green. I also wanted to show Offshore Mist, which is like a little bit more minty than Orion is. And in fact, I like Offshore Mist a little bit more. This is in the Sea of Shadows collection because I feel like this one is a similar depth but doesn't feel too frosty on my eyelid. But yeah, again, not similar other than that tone of green that like is half of Echidna. And lastly, I grabbed out these two because these are both kind of like green with pink. I have Peppermint Kiss from Luxie and Emblem from Cleona. I really like both of them, but I don't think they're going to be all that similar. Here's Peppermint Kiss. It's definitely lighter and mintier in the greenness, and the pink's not quite as apparent. I like using this in eye looks as like an accent. I've kind of like traced along the outskirts of my eye with it, and I feel like that looks very cool. And then Emblem, I love wearing all over my lid. I feel like it's very shifty, very sparkly, very striking. And there are some similarities in the way it flips, it seems. But I would say Emblem almost feels more like pink sparkle on top of that mint base. And Devinah Echidna really just flips back and forth between that green and that pink. And then finally for comparisons, we have Nerites that I have on my eyes right now. I don't think any of these are going to be spot-on dupes either, but I'm curious. They might get a little closer than the last one. I did want to compare it to Nocturne Ash, probably one of my top 3 Devinah shades. I really love this one, and just in application, they reminded me of each other. But as I said, the Mystic Cove shadows do have a little bit more of a texture to them. I don't mind Nocturne Ash having less, but I do prefer the texture of the Mystic Cove shadows. And in the swatch, these two look quite similar. Maybe you could see at some angles, Nocturne Ash has a little bit more of that purple to it, and Nerites is more of like a really true pink leaning coral, but they are similar shadows, and I know they have a similar shift to them. That makes a lot of sense why I like this so much. You might be able to see the differences a little better in the flash. Devinah Cygnus. I pulled this one because it looked like a similar Devinah shadow in like depth and color, but Cygnus has this intense bronziness to it that Nerites doesn't. From Luxie, I pulled Ohana, Jingle Juice, and Glass Wing. Ohana, Jingle Juice, Glass Wing. Ohana, I'd say, is more similar to Cygnus, and it has that same warmth to it. Jingle Juice is more of a cool-toned pink, and Glass Wing, I would say, is the most similar, but has way more iciness to it in the forefront. And then finally, I pulled out Powerhouse from Pretties for Your Face, but judging by Jingle Juice, which is very similar to this one, I think this will be too cool. Yeah, I'd say the biggest difference between this and Jingle Juice is the shifts to it, but the tone is off from Nerites. Final costume change. I keep on starting to film when I definitely don't have enough time to film. So now I have the third of the newest shades on my eyes. This kind of worked out because I have a chance to showcase all of them. So this one is Echidna, and I paired it with a crease that leans quite pink and soleils on the inner corner, same as last time, and I really like how it looks. I do think though next time I wear it, I'll probably pair it with like a more neutral crease, or maybe with greens, but I really like it. Okay, so the final order of business is I just want to swatch the other shades that I picked up during this purchase. I reorganized my palette since I took all of the other Mystic Cove shadows out, and on the top here I have Tucana, Sweet Slush, Sprinkle Whips, and on the bottom, this one is called Sybil, and it's from their like cheapest shimmer line, like $6 shimmers, and I really liked the color of it. I feel like recently I've been open to less in-your-face amazing types of shimmers, and I thought this looks like a color I'm interested in, and it could work as like a cool layering shade. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for this one. And then I have Suki, which is a matte that I've been eyeing for so long, and Mirror Lake, which I've also been eyeing for a while. Tucana. I think this one looks like such like a pretty, easy to wear neutral, but it also has that like really bright pink flip. I'm excited about that. Sprinkle Whips. Not Sprinkle Whips. Sweet Slush I've been looking at for so long. It looks like such a pretty light pink, and I was nervous that these two would end up being similar, but I mean, they are in the same family, and I think this is the kind of thing that I say all the time. If you aren't a person that loves this tone, then these would probably be too similar for you. But because I love shadows like this, they look different enough for me, and I'm excited to have them. And then Sprinkle Whips, really pretty color. It looks a little bit sheer, which means it'll probably play well with other shadows, and I'll be able to work it into other looks really easily. And then next we have Sybil, and this looks exactly like I was hoping. That looks really pretty. I feel like this would make a really nice lower lash line also, and that's also what I imagined using Suki for. I just really like that tone. I feel like the two of those, I could imagine it. Or even like these on most of the lid, and then something like Sweet Slush layered over like the front of it. That'd be cool. And here is Mirror Lake. Didn't come up quite as bold as I thought on that first swatch. Yeah, it looks like it might just need some layering, but I'm hoping this one will work also for my lower lash line, because I'm always trying to improve my blue selection in my collection. Yeah, I'd say out of these 6 older ones that I'm trying for the first time, I'm most excited for Tucana, Sybil, and Suki. And I'm really happy to finally have them in my collection because I've been looking at them for so long. That's gonna be everything for today though. I know this was a little bit of an adventure of a video, so I hope it was cohesive for you, entertaining, helped with your decision making if you are considering purchasing any of the shadows that I mentioned. I should have mentioned this earlier. I do have a discount code with Devinah. It's just Hannah. It's not affiliated, so I don't get any commission or anything if you make a purchase, but it does show the brand that I'm making useful content that's helpful for you, and I really appreciate if you decide to use it if I do help you make your purchase. Either way though, if you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, there's always way more makeup content on the way, and thank you so much for being here. Bye.